Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Rewind. And I really enjoyed this episode because it did a very good job of explaining how Fitz was there in the future with the rest of the team. Though, I do feel that a bit in the beginning could have either been shortened or kind of streamlined a little bit better, because it seemed to just take a lot of time. I was like, okay, I understand, we're getting there, but overall, I kind of liked what they did with this episode. So we start off, and we're back at the diner, and we're getting Fitz's point of view. So everything kind of happens out. He's talking about his stuff, and then, of course, he's going, alright, it's all my fault and all that, but then lights come back on, and he's like, everybody's gone. He's like, what the hell happened? And then, of course, he barely has any time to process it, and then the army and the police get in there, and they're asking him what happened to him. He's like, I don't know. I need to find them as they're taking him away. So then they're pretty much trying to interrogate Fitz to see what he did to get them out. But he, of course, is just going, I don't know, man. There was just the blackout and everything, and nothing. I don't know. Because they think that he did something, use some kind of new S.H.I.E.L.D. tech or whatnot, since he's the big bad brain of S.H.I.E.L.D., to get everybody out. He's like, listen, I want to know where they are too. He first goes that they're probably doing this thing where they took everybody and made them think that they were all taken except for them. And I think that they're playing it on him, but of course they're going, no, that's not it. And he yells for who's in charge, and we get this other woman coming in, because we'd had this woman and this guy, of course, interrogating him, and she's just pretty much going, oh, so I'm the one in charge now since Talbot is pretty much in a coma since Agent Johnson shot him. And he goes, no, that was not Agent Johnson, that was an LMD. Oh, yes, the whole crazy robot stuff that S.H.I.E.L.D. built. No, Ada built. And going through all the kind of crazy stuff, and then she's going, alright then, so Ada murdered Ratcliffe and Mace. Well, he takes responsibility for Mace. You gotta really chalk it up for Fitz's character to be able to take that responsibility, but he also has to learn how to balance the guilt. Because at this point in time, I think he's being a little bit too hard on himself, because he was being psychologically manipulated by a robot that wanted to be human and wanted Fitz to love her. So there are going to be things that happen. I'm not saying he should not feel bad that Mace died because of him, but he still needs to completely balance out all the crazy shit that was going on. So, of course, she's pretty much playing the big bad head honcho. You're going to be here for a long time if you don't cooperate. They take him to his cell. Of course, they come in, flashlights and everything. He's like, listen, let me help you find them so that I know that they're okay. Going through the polygraph and all that, and they're going, listen, he's telling the truth. His only demands are for when he's going through is like books, paper, pens, and TV so he can watch soccer. And of course, she okays all this, and then we go into the montage of him doing research, getting angry at soccer, working out, and eating. This, I felt, went on a little bit too long. The only good parts that come in were when he was starting to really go into what could be going on, that since he had a traumatic experience in the framework and he had already had brain trauma, that he could have went into a kind of schizophrenic episode and either helped him escape or did something worse, and that he is not all there together mentally. But of course, a woman he's talking to, Evans, she sat down saying everybody within the diner has that same 2-minute blackout. So you can't have been able to take a schizophrenic episode and somehow apply that 2-minute blackout to everybody involved. And, of course, he keeps going deeper and trying to figure out some stuff, and he's writing to this magazine and all that. And they, of course, let him do it because the Radcliffe intel he gave them was good. And you just see him kind of continuing on. And we get to the point where it's 6 months later, and they're getting pissed off at him, and goes, listen, we need a theory from you. And he goes, okay, they were abducted by aliens. And that's pretty much the truth. He's hit it on the head, because by process of elimination from everything that he's going through, Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't know how crazy that sounds, actually, because this is the Marvel Universe. We have Inhumans, which are the result of alien genetic experimentation on the human race. We have the Chitauri and the whole invasion of New York. We've got the Norse gods and their cosmic crap that was going on in London with Thor the Dark World. I fail to see how crazy an explanation that would sound to the people interrogating him. So, of course, the lady in charge pretty much wants to put him away, take away everything, do what she was going to do anyway. But she gets a cell phone call and says that his attorney's here, and in comes in Hunter. And it was really cool to get Hunter back in this episode because I really liked his character. And he was just a different kind of oddball, mercenary kind of dude, and I liked how his character growth happened, and it was really cool to get him back in this episode. So, we get them alone, and they're talking about, like, soccer and everything, bashing on each other's teams and all that, and Fitz is yelling at him, I've been writing in, and it's been 6 months. And he's like, listen, I was in Bangladesh, and I couldn't get that copy, man. Seriously. And, of course, Fitz is trying to get him through this whole plan. He's like, listen, I got this idea. You're going to have to smuggle the thing in. If you visit like 3 times a week for a month, we should be good. And, of course, Hunter is positioning him, and then the wall blows out, and he goes, well, listen, in your messages, you didn't encode that you had an escape plan, so I kind of had to improvise myself. Which, of course, happens in great Hunter fashion. So, of course, they figure he let him in that he was in a secure installation and everything. They get out, and he's going, all right, that is our ticket out. And it's this dude flying this helicopter, Rusty. He's like, the best pilot that money can buy. And the helicopter crashes. And spectacularly, I might add. Even though it was kind of chintzy CGI, it still was pretty effective and kind of comical to see Goku. And he's like, tell me you have another escape plan. He's like, well, you're supposed to do like a distraction while we escaped on ground, but that kind of fell through. And you go, well, they're distracted now, let's go. So they run off, and they get to the ground transport that they're going to use, and it's an RV. And they're like, Fitz is just like, oh my god, what the hell, man. And they're getting in, changing clothes, gives Fitz his phone, turns it on, and we see this exhaust flutter out. He goes, look, it even has cloaking. Just having those, like, quippy little one-liners are pretty good. And, of course, they start pulling off. The head woman in charge is going, like, how did he contact somebody to do this? And they're going, well, we ran through the letters. There weren't any codes or whatnot. And she goes, well, you better go through it again, because there's a code there, because somebody came and busted him out. And they're trying to get a beat on them, and, of course, they figure out the whole RV thing, and she has a wait-and-see approach. She's going, listen, tail it, see if it leads us to any of the other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. So then we get to Fitz kind of seeing what's going on in the news. We don't get too much other than everybody thinks S.H.I.E.L.D's crazy because of the whole LMD kind of stuff. And Hunter's asking, like, he had his head on fire? Huh, okay, so relaying the whole Ghost Rider kind of thing. And I love it when that kind of stuff happens, because you forget kind of when certain characters leave, and then when they come back and you explain all these cool things that you know, and they're going, that's kind of one of the craziest things ever. So then he starts going, okay, we got that. We got the sexy robot that became human because she wanted you to stick your floppy in her love drive, and that's just kind of crazy. He just had a great way of just cheekily talking about the events that we had previously witnessed. So then we get into him and Bobby, that he says they were compatible 100% of the time, 100%, 50% of the time, and they nearly got married again, until the ninjas showed up. And when I hear that, I'm like, can we have that? I would like to see a wedding ceremony when ninjas come in and then a fight breaks out. I'm just saying, you tease that kind of cool stuff. That's the kind of cool stuff we like to watch. So he says that distance is their savior, but then, of course, he asks about him and Simmons, and he goes, well, distance is our curse. And, of course, they only have the clue of the ale truck, And Hunter goes, oh, cool. So we find this ale truck, we plunder. I'm okay with that. Go back there. Rusty was a paranoid son of a bitch. He's got all kinds of technology and all that kind of stuff. Just go back there near the margarita machine and the ferrets. You got it. So they pull out all this stuff. Fitz is trying to figure out what's going on while Hunter is in there sipping a margarita. So they see everything going on. They see the ale truck. But as Fitz is going through, he sees different trucks. And then he puts two and two together, puts them together, and it's the same truck. So, of course, they're able to figure out where it goes. We get to the bald guy at his house, and I was able to actually stop it and see that it's like coconut water. Just lots of coconut water that he drinks in the fridge. And they come in, and he goes, I was expecting you. And they're like, wait, you're not even going to let us surprise you? It's those crazy little lines that I really like. It's like, but we took the time to surprise you. You know we're here. Thanks. So, of course, he goes, there's no need for violence and everything, and I saw that you brought my friends here in the truck, and they're like, where are they at? And he goes, 2091, Earth year. And they're like, what? So they walk into a room, and they see this computer and all these pieces of paper all over the walls. Now, it's not a crazy kind of conspiracy theorist kind of way, but it's very organized and meticulous. So you know you're dealing with someone who is trying to logically go through something. So they're going, what's all this? And he's like trying to explain it, and he goes, why do I feel like there's a kill room in this basement? I just love that kind of stuff. So of course he shows the monolith footage to Fitz, and he's like, who the hell are you? And he goes, he was sent here 30,000 years ago to observe and record the evolution of your species, humanity, and saying that he's pretty much like an anthropologist. And he says that his Earth name is Enoch, and that he is a sentient chronicom from the planet around the star in the constellation known as Cygnus to you guys. And it's really cool that we're getting all this information. It doesn't feel it's close to an info dump, but not exactly. We're getting information at the speed that we kind of need it. And we're like, oh, wow. We've got an alien here living and observing us. And he goes, why did you do this? Why did you take them? And he's going to fulfill this prophecy. Speaking of the future. And he says they were needed there. And Hunter's going, I was like, oh, I'm going to start shooting some stuff. There's only so much crazy I can take before I start shooting holes in things. And he goes, why didn't you take me? And he goes, you're not part of the seer's prophecy. And he's like, take me to the monolith. And he's going, well, it can only be activated at the other end. He said, I only knew when it would open, not the knowledge of who was going to open it. And he goes, well, somebody does. And he wants him to take it to the seer, and he kind of was not really at first. But then, of course, Fitz gets pissed off, takes Hunter's gun, and threatens to shoot his head. Excuse me. And, of course, Hunter... oh, excuse me again, I'm sorry. Hunter looks a little bit worried at this. He's like, whoa. It's not the Fitz that I'm used to. So, we go forward, and they're in a park now. Enoch's explaining he's trying to help. Didn't need to threaten me. Of course, Fitz apologizes, saying he was just worried about his friends. And we get to the seer, and we see this little girl that we've seen before, Robin, who's an Inhuman. And that's kind of where it stops. Now we get back to the military. They're searching through the room, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So, of course, the mother says hello to Enoch. He's been evidently in constant contact with these people. And, of course, Fitz recognizes her, recognizes Robin, introduces himself and everything, saying that he's a friend of Daisy's and all that. And when he says Daisy's name, Robin's marker stops and then kind of resumes. But it's important in that because we learn that she's seeing the future and that she's drawing it out and that she's constantly in between like past, present, and future and all the different events, which would be horrible enough as an adult. But as a child to try and wrap your head around that, being at so many different timelines at once, you can understand why she doesn't talk that much. So, while this is going on, we see that the military people are going, okay, we're looking through all this stuff. We see Evans and her partner in the kitchen seeing the children's drawings and go, well, is there a kid's room here? And there's like, no, he's a single bachelor, lives alone. And she looks at him and she's freaked out because there's a drawing of her and him, the green apple, which he just picked up to eat. And they're like, whoa. Oh, I'm sorry. And they put that together and like, whoa, it's a child. We need, because they had alluded to a crystal ball kind of scenario, but it's actually the child. So Hunter's trying to talk to her, and of course the mother, Polly, is explaining that she has been doing a lot more drawings and being more active, giving them the Enoch and all that, and that Hunter asked to see one, and we see, of course, a cracked earth. And all these other kind of symbols in the folder one, as Enoch's watching, and says that these symbols are an ancient language from another galaxy, never known to anyone on Earth. So that's kind of a cool thing. Maybe we'll learn more about this ancient language or whatnot through some kind of various Marvel kind of other offshoot or whatnot. But of course, Hunter's talking to her saying, you know what, you could teach Bobby something. It's like you get a drink in her, she keeps talking and everything, but of course then Robin speaks, they're here for us. And we see the military there. So, of course, they're just telling them to stop and not run away. But, of course, Enoch hands out these earplugs, and they're gone. And then Evans, his partner, looks at his watch and says, we've lost half an hour of time, so that's a handy trick. So then we see the RV. We see Polly and Robin with them. And they're like, listen, we need to lay low for a while and just kind of think of what our next kind of thing is going to be happening. So, of course, they get to Lake Ontario, which has the lighthouse kind of thing, and that's the postcard. So, he's taking them to under the lighthouse, and I really didn't put two and two together until towards the end of the episode. This is the lighthouse that holds the refuge, excuse me, of humanity after the Earth is destroyed. I'm like, whoa, because they're going down into it, and Enoch's going, listen, it's unknown how deep this goes, it's unknown who's built it, and everything. And it's going, wow, okay. And of course, we get back to the military, and they want now Robin on their side, especially the head one. She wants Robin so that way no secrets get out and to be more under their control, running facial recognition and all that kind of stuff. So then we get to back to Fitz and them, just kind of like talking that Robin's not safe and everything, and trying to figure out what to do next. And Fitz gets more information from Enoch. Enoch says that interference is usually against their protocol, unless it's an extinction level event. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. That would threaten humanity or another kind of species. So you're like, okay, what was this kind of cataclysm that they were going to have? So Of course, we get to Fitz looking through his photos of Gemma, and they talk about pretty much the framework stuff, why he probably wasn't taken because he would have been a risk to everybody. And he goes, well, why don't you go ask the person who did everything, you know? So just go and do that. So of course he kind of goes over. He wants to see what's going on, and of course he's just talking to Polly. She's relaying that Enoch has really helped her to understand what's going on with her daughter, that her daughter mostly lives within her head because of all the stuff that's going on. And she asks Fitz why he isn't with his friends. And then she gives him a drawing and says that because you have to save them. And you see a picture of 5 people. 2 regular looking kind of human people. Well, 3 regular looking kind of human people. And 2 creatures that we haven't really encountered yet. They are, let's see. 2 are kind of like big faceless beings with claws. They've got kind of like black bodies and silver claws. And then we see a 3rd body lying on the floor with X's over their eyes and blood splurting out from a wound of some kind of weapon. So that's not good. So of course, this goes to be like, okay, my friends are 70 years in the future, and I'll be nothing but a skeleton, and what are we going to do now? And he goes, well, we have to get you there anyway because it's prophecy now. And of course I'm like, how? And he goes, well, I came into Earth in a small capsule. It was discovered a few decades ago. It was put at Blue Raven Ridge, which you can guess is where Fitz had to break out of. So of course they use the truck, they get inside, they unleash Rusty's ferrets to wreak havoc with the sensors, and they go in kind of Indiana Jones style into a warehouse, and they find it, and alright, cool. And they're thinking, alright, we gotta get this back to the truck. Hunter pops open the lights, and we see that the bus, Zephyr 1, is right there, with, incidentally enough, all their shield tech. So, they're pretty much getting everything on board, but, of course, the rest, like, the security around the place has finally figured this out, and we get a really cool action scene with Fitz. Fitz takes out 2 Icers and starts really holding them off, where you would normally think that would be Hunter doing that. He tells Hunter to go and get the plane ready to take off and everything while he closes the door. He just freaking badasses his way. This was a very good moment of character development for Fitz, because him and Simmons are usually not the ones to take initiative with action like this. They're usually more of the ones that are in the behind the text scenes. Not saying that that is a bad thing, but it's cool to see Fitz having learned some things and is actively trying to further the mission in a different way than he usually does. So he does all that, takes them out, closes the door, and they jet off. It's like, alright, cool. So of course, this pisses off the head woman, and Evans and the guy are like, well, we're sorry about this. She's going, you continually let me down, and she's thinking you're going to demote us and all that, and she goes, no, and then shoots them both in the head and calls that she needs a cleaning crew. And I hope something more is done with this. I know it would be kind of weird to link it to Hydra or whatnot since we keep dealing with Hydra, but, or maybe some other kind of shadowy organization or whatnot, because that just seemed out of place a little bit. And that there's, I think, more going on there than just, oh, yeah, it's the military. They will take out, there's a reason she murdered them. I just hope that we get that reason somewhere down the line. So, of course, we get to Fitz getting himself ready for what's going to be happening. He's hiding all this shield stuff in the wall and all that. Also, the axe shotgun for Mac. And we find out that the plan is to cryo-freeze him. and pretty much take the long way to get there. And Hunter really doesn't like that. He's going, well, we hide you in a wall, you can suffocate. We hide you out here, someone could find you. But of course, Enoch's got the idea of using a spaceship, have him orbit a planet a ways away, and that he would take care of Fitz. Which is a pretty nice gesture for a guy to do after you hold a gun to his head, but granted, it's understanding context and the circumstances involved. So of course, Fitz leaves the postcard to Robin, and Hunter says that him and Bobby will take care of Robin and Polly, which is pretty cool since, of course, Enoch and Fitz are going to be going away. And Enoch thanks him for that. And, of course, him and Fitz hug it out because it's similar to the beginning of the episode. Fitz did too long of a hug with Hunter, and Hunter does a longer hug for him here. And Fitz gets in, and we get another cool Star Wars kind of thing. Is that Hunter goes up to the pod as Fitz is in it, and he goes, I love you. And Fitz goes, I know. And then freezes him like Han and Carbonite. It's well done. It's not overly like, here is a giant meta joke. And it's just really well done within character. And we see Fitz freeze, and it was kind of cool. So then we jump to 74 years later, and 365 million miles from the lighthouse, and of course we see Fitz wake up. Enoch going, good morning, Fitz, rise and shine, and he's like, while you were asleep, I put a plan in motion. And it's like, that's a pretty good idea. You got about 74 years, so I think a plan would be well worth it. So he goes, alright, we got a few days before we arrive at the lighthouse, and we'll pretty much prepare you. You'll be facing against stuff like the most ruthless and brutal mobsters, monsters, and like crazy things in the galaxy, and says, I hope you're ready. And he says, I think I have it in me. So a good portion of what was going on was understanding the kind of darker sides, because I like that they had that kind of thing with Hunter and Fitz. Because Fitz didn't like what happened in the framework, but of course Hunter goes, everybody has a light and a dark side, you just gotta figure out how to control it. And I think the framework was pivotal in giving Fitz the tools to deal with this kind of crazy endgame scenario and be able to save his friends in the future. So that did a really nice job of kind of tying it up. I kind of wish that the kind of what I'd term as kind of filler stuff, montage stuff at the beginning had been shortened or streamlined, and more kind of weight would have been given to what was going on with the military people. Not because I wanted the focus taken off from Fitz, just to give it more importance to the story, because what we've seen so far is kind of weird, especially with the woman in charge murdering her two subordinates. So something's going on there, and hopefully when they come back, we figure out what. So this set up a nice scenario to explain why Fitz was in the future, and that he's definitely, him and Enoch have a plan. So that I'm really looking forward to, and looking forward to the team interacting with Enoch and what's going to be happening with that. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.